A very good evening to all of you, and a warm welcome to today's speaker, my colleague, Dr. B. Venkat Ramanan. Before starting the session, I would like to give a simple introduction about him since it is the first class in your session. He is one of the, he's taking key roles in this particular in promoting or delivering this sustainability science program. He is a product of one of the renowned university, premier university in India, G. Pant Institute of G. Pant University of Agriculture, Science and Technology, and he is the product of Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. And his area of interest and his area of expertise is in climate change. Presently, he is the coordinator of postgraduate certificate in climate change, which is offered by IGNOU and offered through our School of Interdisciplinary Transdisciplinary Studies. I have already shared a brief about him. In addition to that, recently in the year 2019 and 20, he has edited more than 3-4 books in the areas of climate change, resilient agriculture, and environmental management, which is a major focus on climate change and the sustainable issues of sustainability. With this, I invite you, sir, in this session. So I'm sure all the learners will be able to get whatever our team in our university, our postgraduate diploma sustainable science teams try to deliver the updated information and clear some of the basic concept which is related to the topic which we have shared with all of you. Thank you. Just start, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kuman. Few minutes. Okay, I just because I'm working on two computers, so some issue with the computer. So just in fact, it's not opening. There's some issue with the computer. I think there's 1 minute. It's not opening. Just a few minutes. Well, I just. Is it right?
Sir.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Kuman, thank you very much for this opportunity. In fact, you just, the words you have said, it is, um, I'm very grateful to you for your kind words. Dear participants, in fact, this particular session is on agrobiodiversity and sustainable agriculture. And in the background, the father of Green Revolution in India, M.S. Swaminathan's lecture is also going on. In fact, he has done a lot of work on plant breeding, particularly plant breeding. The point here is that what has driven plant breeding, what has been the success of Green Revolution, the main success, if you see, is from agrobiodiversity. It's because of the agricultural resources that we have in the past. That's what we have used it, and we have bred new varieties. So if you see everything, whatever the Green Revolution and whatever we are talking about in crop breeding and everything, the ultimate resource is agriculture biodiversity. Okay, and we look at it when you see the agriculture biodiversity for agriculture production. Yes, it's true, it has contributed immensely. But here the point is that Dr. Kuman has suggested the topic agrobiodiversity and sustainable agriculture. And when you use the word sustainable, and there are a lot of questions to be asked when I use the word sustainable, what is sustainable? And I'm not going to deal with those aspects, but as far as agriculture is concerned, Yes, I am from that particular background, agriculture. So what I wanted to say is that what was the technology we are talking about, whatever the aspects, the production practices and everything we are talking about, it requires to be beneficial, it requires to be beneficial. If that is the case, we call those technologies, those practices as sustainable agriculture, sustainable practices, best management practices. But nevertheless, if you look at it, many of the practices has been not been successful, because you were saying we are talking go on and on and on, we are speaking about this thing, but where we are going, where we are heading for, why there is a lot of obstacles, why there is a lot of barriers in it. Even I mean, many of us, I mean, including the father of green revolution, he has also given a lot of technologies, but the point here is that where we are heading for, why we were not so successful, that's the question. The question in front of you is that why there's a lot of practices are there, a lot of sciences, a lot of people are speaking, go on and go on and on, they're speaking, but why we are not successful? What is it it's obstructing? Understood? The point here is that, so in that case, will it be possible? Will it be possible that there is a shift in our thinking process? Thinking process. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that sustainable agriculture has to be properly defined. I repeat again, we speak on sustainability, and I'm here concerned only with agriculture. We need to define sustainable agriculture in proper terms. When you define it, you will be understanding the principles underlying. And when you talk about the principles, yes, it is not a new thing. It is not at all a new thing. It has been, even when we were, when almost 30, 40 years been, it has been conceptualized. The principles of sustainable agriculture has been conceptualized. But the question here is that, the first question is that, why the principles are there, fine, everything is fine, but why it was not successful, why it has not been implemented? And I know very well that you'll be the knee jerk reaction from the participants will be that to state that the socioeconomic condition and those the prevailing environmental condition, I'm talking about the agriculture ecosystem, these are all normal titbit answers. You understood? It is not the answer what is expected from this particular juncture, because we are talking about uncertainties, we are talking about the period wherein lot of uncertainty is there. When I say uncertainty, I'm talking about the pandemic right now we are facing it. Under these circumstances, the agriculture is already a sensitive enterprise. It's already sensitive enterprise from the perspective of climate change, from perspective of environmental change, so on and so forth. But rather, more than those challenges, we have other challenges also. Understood? The present pandemic also. When you see the pandemic, how it has impacted agriculture, you just imagine. It's very difficult to understand, because again, we can by using the, what is it called, the fancy words, we can use that food chain has been collapsed, and or what you call the complete supply chain has been, these are all the fancy words. I'm very straightforward today. I'm very straightforward. I'm just asking, the straight answer is that in the present day of the pandemic and all the uncertainties that is taking place around us, including the changes, that is environmental changes, and Dr. Kuman will be talking about all the environmental pollution aspect also. In today, under the now we are in 21st century, a lot of work has been done in agriculture field, and do we have an answer or not? I'll repeat again, these are the challenges in front of us. Do we have the answer or not? Do we have a solution? In fact, solution. Understood? If we have the solution, work for the solution. Find out the solution. Instead of that thing, pondering over all the problems and again, it'll be difficult. Now the question is that the perspective of this present slide, the present discussion is that, yes, there is a solution. We have to look for the solution, and the solution, there are many umpty number of solutions are there in front of us. One important solution is agriculture biodiversity. Okay, and how best we can use agriculture biodiversity, and that can help us to develop a pathway, agriculture pathway. I'm not using the word sustainable here. A pathway which can have a best possible benefits. I'm not using the word sustainable here. Best possible benefits, and also the system itself. I'm talking about the agriculture production system itself, can be made adaptable. Understood. Yesterday, just because Dr. Kuman, I was discussing, and few papers are just going through it. I'm not mentioning those papers. It is in in fact, it's a wonderful paper from Journal of Environmental Management. The particular author from is from BHU. He just mentioned about an agriculture practice, which is landless in nature, which is micro in nature, which is urban in nature. Some kind of a shift of thought process is required. That's what that ultimate that paper, the nutshell, the I got from that particular observation of that the group of scientists from basically wonderful paper, wonderful. So from that particular perspective also, we need to understand very well that instead of looking at the problems, we need to, yes, we need to look at the problems, but at the same time we need to look at the solutions. And again, the solutions is not exactly focusing only on sustainable agriculture. Rather, you define, redefine, understand the principles, and look for certain kind of a integrative approach. And I'm not again mentioning the words. I'm not mentioning the words. There are many technologies, many approaches are in front of us. Dr. Kuman will be saying about the integrative practices like the climate smart agriculture. So yes, many things are there. Practice. I'm not again mentioning. In fact, no single answer is there. There are, for example, you'll be compelled to answer because we are using the word agro. You'll be compelled to use the word agroecology also. You'll be compelled to use the word sustainable because behind the scene, Professor M.S. Swaminathan sir was speaking. So there is a compulsion to use the word sustainable intensification as well. So sustainable intensification, agroecology, climate smart agriculture, there are many approaches are there in front of us. But everything, when you look at it, it will be overlapping. The benefits will be overlapping. And the question here is, the question reminds that even whatever the technology we are talking about, if it is not adopted by the farmers, if it is not taken care of by the stakeholders, then no point of speaking time and again. So here the question is that whatever the technology is there, we need to understand the barriers, we need to understand the constraints. And once we understand the constraints, do you have a solution? After uh, going on all the things, we have a solution or not? Yes, we have a solution, and we have to look at the solution not in a piecemeal manner. We need to understand those principles and solutions in a holistic manner. When I say holistic, again, people started using the word holistic, but here I'm using the word holistic from the perspective of agroecosystem. When I say agroecosystem, there are many sub-components are there, and each and every component has to be taken into account. We need to understand the benefits that is there in the, the real processes, that is again, if I use the word ecosystem, I'm compelled to use certain words like structure, function, and the feedbacks that is taking place in the ecosystem, and those aspects has to be taken care of. Those aspects has to be taken care of in a scientific perspective. Understood? When I say these aspects, when you talk about, I'm just in a way, I'm trying to say a very important point, that the structure, the function, and the feedbacks that is there in the ecosystems, if you wanted to capitalize on those best of the possible, the mechanisms that is there in the ecosystem, we need to look for a science. And that science, again, I'm not mentioning, when I say again, I'm not mentioning we need to understand those the underlying principles. Understood? Understand the principles and thereafter implement it. And definitely, when you look at it, we need to go back to the ecology of this thing. So the answer here is that the agriculture we are talking about is that in addition to sustainability, we need to understand the ecological aspects. When I say ecological aspect, there's definitely the inner meaning in that particular thing. Because most of if I ask a question that all these practices, can we call that as in sustainable practices? Even there are umpty number of practices are there in sustainable agriculture domain. If you use that, all the practices, do you think that these practices are sustainable in nature? Do The problem here is that we are not looking at the trade-offs. We are just focusing on, for example, any technology. I don't know how many of you are from agriculture background. Any technology, you're having it, you just implement the technology, you look at only one point, that technology versus the benefits. That's all. But my point here is that that particular technology, in addition to the benefits, we need to understand the trade-offs. What are the negativities? What are the externalities? What are the cost issues? Understood? Only then your technology will be having definitely the benefits. I'm Understood. In addition to sustainability, Dr. Kumar will be answering in the ecological, environmental, all kind of sustainability you'll be mentioning. But I'm not going to mention those aspects. I'm just asking a very simple question that whatever the technology we are talking about, whichever in the part in the domain of sustainable agriculture, I mean agriculture. So that technology, in addition to the benefits, we need to understand the trade-offs as well. We need to understand the externalities, and only then you will be successful enough to proceed further, because the challenges are empty. When I say challenges are empty, because I mean, time and again we are talking about the changes that is happening around us. In addition to that thing, the population is increasing. When I say population is increasing, the definitely there's a demand for food demands and so on and so forth. It is everything we'll be seeing from 5 minutes from now. So now I made a kind of opened up a Pandora box, Dr. Kuman, you will be listening. I've opened up a Pandora box. Now the question is that uh, uh, the population is increasing. Yes. The demand of for the food grains is increasing. Yes. The changes are in around us is increasing, and a lot of uncertainties are taking place. And under those circumstances, Dr. Kuman can he give a suggestion? Can he give a solution through all kind of processes? I mean, we are talking about many of the principles. Do we have a solution? If we have the solution, it's fine. Otherwise, it is again a difficult thing. But here, I'm a part of a solution. I'm saying that this whatever the integrated policies are there, this agriculture biodiversity can be a part of the solution, because if we wanted to increase agriculture production, we require agriculture biodiversity. Second point, in front of us, a lot of solution, I mean, a lot of problems. I'm talking about the stresses, abiotic stresses, biotic stresses are there. If you wanted to manage those stresses, the solution is there. Yes, you have to go back to the agriculture biodiversity. You understood, and and uncertainties are happening because we wanted to increase the what you call agriculture production and the nutritive value, and because ultimately we need to achieve the food security. And in order to achieve the food security, do you have a solution? Yes, you have to go for agriculture biodiversity. So whatever the principles, whatever the practices, whatever the integrated approach and everything. So those practices, the ultimate, the bedrock of everything is taking care of agriculture biodiversity. When I taking care of agriculture biodiversity, I'm talking about, because you take the fish, or you take the livestock, you take the croplands, you you take any number of things, because so many resources are there underlying, and these resources has to be capitalized. You have to use it properly. I think now we can go for the presentation. I just wanted to open up my thought process so that you will understand the things in a proper perspective. Dr. Kuman, you are getting it? Yeah. So the point for me to speak for 5 minutes is that I wanted to place the importance of agriculture biodiversity. Whatever we have achieved is because of agriculture biodiversity, and what we are going to achieve in future also, a major part is lying the resources. You can get it from agriculture biodiversity. Okay. Now, again, so much I've spoken on this aspect. That is definitely, because when you talk about the interrelationship that is existing between agriculture or biodiversity
Professor
and
Venkat.
ultimate, I mean, everything is interrelated. When I say everything is related, when you talk about a crop plant, we talk about, and definitely, because whatever the crop plant you're saying, whatever the crop plant, whether it's a paddy or a wheat crop, because if you see the globally, only 20 crops are important. 20 crops are important. Even within that 20 crops, major four crops are there: the paddy, wheat, and the maize, and definitely these are the crops. Soybean is an important crop as far as the Western countries, Western hemisphere is concerned. So these are the crops, are very important crops, and their growth, their what is it called? Their development, yield attributing characters, everything we have got it from the biological diversity. So there is a lot of dependency that is there in agriculture and biological diversity. Okay, I'm just talking about the croplands. Think about the diversity that is existing in the soil environment. There's a lot of soil microorganisms. You mentioned the organisms. There's traditionally we'll be talking about the nitrogen fixing organisms, the phosphorus mobilizers, and there are many organisms out there that traditionally we'll be talking about. Now what I wanted to say is that when I say traditionally, we need to look for the new developments. When I say new, it's not updating exactly. I'm talking about the new developments, because we need to understand the relationship that is existing. Okay, For example, the PGPR or nitrogen fixing. There are group of microorganisms are there that is coming up widely. It has been used so that they are trying to enrich the soil environment. They're trying to enrich the soil, the ecosystem. When I talk about ecosystem, I'm talking about the mineral composition. I'm talking about the biological composition. These are the composition that will help you, because when a single is, for example, carbon is a very important resource as far as soil environment is concerned, because once you have a soil organic carbon, if it is rich, and think about the soil organic you mean, I don't know, I mean, how many of you will be knowing about the status of organic carbon, I mean soil organic carbon in India? If you look at it, I mean, I hope you would have have a basic idea about the soil organic carbon status in this in Indian continent. I hope you will be having it. The significance is so much, the soil organic carbon, how much important it is for the soil, the what is it called, biodiversity. At the same time, how much it is important for the crop growth. And also, if you see, based on their when they talk about carbon, and naturally I'm tempted to use the word the mitigation potential of soil in climate change as well. So this is about the kind of interdependency. When there is a lot of interdependency is there between agriculture and biodiversity, and definitely we can say that there are four important reasons for the success of green revolution, for the green revolution, and globally also four important reasons are there. One important reason is biological diversity. One important reason is biological diversity. Three are other reasons you can find for yourself. Now, the second important point is that I just talked about the challenges to agriculture. When I say challenges to agriculture, uh, when I talk about from the perspective of the growing population, and the demand for the food, the growing demand, it's all normal things. But new things is coming up is that the agriculture, the what is it called, along with the increasing food demand, there is a change in their dietary pattern. The dietary pattern also can have an impact on the agriculture production. Dietary pattern means the growing middle, what you call middle income group of people in India also. There is a shift from carbohydrate rich food to the protein food. There's a shift in their dietary pattern, and because of their shift, there's, in other words, there's the demand for the poultry, demand for the meat is increasing day by day, and because of this increase, this can have an impact on the agricultural land. It can have an impact on the agricultural resources. It can be a impact means I'm talking about the land, I'm talking about the water, I'm talking about every possible resources there that is linked with, associated with agriculture. I'm talking about the crop production. So the demand for what is going to increase? The demand for land is definitely is going to increase, and we cannot increase the land because it's a finite resource. 141 million hectares in India for agriculture, it is there in the net zone area. We cannot increase it. We cannot increase the land area, at least for agriculture, because the simultaneously the demand for the land from industrial sector and growing population, urbanization, and so on and so forth, it is increasing. But here the point is that whatever the land is there, we cannot increase. But at the same time, we can increase what? We can increase what we can increase. No answers. Fine.
We can increase the productivity
Productivity.
and the diversification of crops, which is likely to be consumed in the future by the population, the upper segment of the population.
Very good, sir. Very good, sir. And this, whatever you said, is that the productivity enhancement and the diversification. This has been the story for the past 4 decades.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a future generation, because Dr. Kumar has used the word sustainable. I am compelled to speak about the future.
Right.
Fine, sir. Man, whatever you said is absolutely right, because we need to focus on the productivity enhancement. Fine, that has happened. And in fact, think about the 50 million tonners in 1950s, and now we are touching about 300 million tonners in India, 6 times. That is productivity enhancement, and that has achieved. We have achieved with the 141 million hectares, and we have not increased the land area. That talks about intensification. What else is possible? So what else is possible is that we try to relate, we try to link, associate the productivity enhancement and your own point, I'm coming to it, intensification, with certain other virtues of resource use efficiency, virtues of how best you will be using the soil management practices. So in a way, I'm not zeroing down to these two important points. There are many points are there. I'm trying to bring an important point to the front, that is the use efficiency. Use efficiency. Use means I'm not using the word any adjectives. It can be resource, it can be the crop, it can be water, it can be fertilizer, it can be anything. I'm using the word use efficiency. It means that I'm trying to sync the demand of the croplands with the supply of the nutrients. I'm trying to bringing in a point that the inputs, when you talk about inputs, there are natural inputs and what we're using it. Normally we use the fertilizers, the water, these are all the normal manufactured inputs. It's called basically manufactured inputs. And these kind of inputs, when you talk about it in the natural capital, Dr. Kuman will be again using the word capital and everything. I'm also using the word natural capital and the managed inputs, the manufactured inputs. How best you can bring a kind of a synergy that is there between these two inputs. And the ultimate is the efficiency aspect, use efficiency. And there are umpty number of things are there. So can you call at this juncture, because you said a very important point, that the productive enhancement and everything you said, very important points are. So can I say that to make a point across the board, that the first important point as far as the sustainability, when Dr. Kuman talks about sustainability, or for that matter anyone talks about sustainability, we need to have a rethought. You have to rethink, not simply use those principles, which is not, I'm very straightforward in this particular thing, because whenever we are compelled to think about a new kind of principles, understood. And only then when you talk about the use efficiency, you can, if you say use efficiency, trying to use all the possible ecological principles. I'm trying to use all the possible components of agriculture ecosystem in a synergistic manner. And it's not only singly, for example, you're using trying to use a group of microorganisms. For example, you wanted to use a group of microorganisms to enrich the nitrogen status of the soil. For phosphorus, you thinking about a process, a methodology, a practice. For example, you wanted to use a biochar, and by using the biochar, you're getting multiple benefits. In a way, I'm using a concept called co-benefits. From a single technology, I'm in a position to bring in a lot of benefits. And since it's a multiple benefits are there, and there is a possibility, and there is a potential to have the net maximum benefits. Understood? It's not the single point agenda. I'm talking about a multiple point agenda. Understood? And that is the key thing. Not simply talking about one particular technology, just hold it technology on one particular thing. You just don't hold it. I'm talking about a principle. Think about those kind of process. Okay. That can be part of agriculture practice. Again, I'm not using the word sustainable here. I'm saying a practice, agriculture practice. Understood? Because the point here is that there's a question now. When there's just a few days back, there was a question. I'm interested in certain practices in agriculture. We call those practices as what you call smart practices. They're asking whether that smart practices, can you call the smart practices as sustainable agriculture? The question is wonderful. You're getting my point. The question is so nice that there are certain practices, they're called as smart practices. And can we call those smart practices as sustainable agriculture? Wonderful question. Now, if that is the case, now I'll ask you a very wonderful thing, because then what is the definition? What is the criteria for calling a particular practice as sustainable? What are the criteria for calling the agriculture practices sustainable agriculture practices? So it's a very difficult thing. You need to have a proper understanding about each and every conceptual, underpinnings that is there in that thing. Then we have to think about it. Okay, now I'm not going to deal with those aspects, but nevertheless, here my point here is that this agriculture biodiversity is having a lot of forward linkages, and it can do many things. And if you wanted to have a discussion, we can have it right now or at the end of the session. But my point here is that I wanted to stress the importance of biological diversity. That's all. And once you have that thing, you will understand much better the ecological sustainability. Understood? That's a key thing. Now, it's a very simple slide actually. When I say simple slide, because what exactly the biological diversity? When a simple question is asked, particularly the agriculture biodiversity, which is forming a subset of the biodiversity. And when I say subset of biodiversity, many aspects, whether it is the crop plants, whether it's the any plants. When I say use the word crop, includes the wheat plants as well, because wheat is not a crop, but nevertheless, a lot of resources are there because genetic resources are there. And genetic resource means they can have the gene for resistance, and that also has to be taken into account. And second important thing is that as far as the biological diversity in agriculture is concerned, we have the the biological diversity. That is means I'm talking about the soil biological diversity. It's a very very important thing, very important thing. When I say soil biological diversity, because I was just going through it. It's not the traditional one, because when I see the normal microorganisms that is helping for the increasing the agricultural production, there are a group of microorganisms now. They have come to know that these microorganisms, in addition to improving the health of the soil, because the concept called health has come, health of the soil, it also have a the a very important role to play to in climate change. It is having an important role to play in soil carbon sequestration. There are many things out there as far as the what you call the microorganisms are concerned. And in addition, I'm just wanted to say one important thing, that even the biogeochemical cycling, normal carbon, these all normal things. But now new things have come up, new microorganisms they have discovered, that their role has been discovered. Understood? The functionalities, that how I was interested. I mean, it's very compelling that okay, fine. There are umpty number of microorganisms that is there in the soil ecosystem that is playing a vital role in agriculture production. Okay, so the crop plants, yes, the animal, the fish, the livestock, and microorganisms. So all is in part and parcel of agriculture biodiversity. Okay, now, when you talk about this, the particular thing, the way, again, uh, when you look at those aspects that this agriculture biodiversity, how it has come, what is it, driving forces, driving forces. There are a lot of scientific principles are there. For example, it's a mutation, migration, recombination. There are many methods are there. Why this, for example, why there's a diversity? Why at the first instance, why there's a diversity? Okay, and when you understand those things, that's all basically a biological process. I'm not going to mention here right now. Basically, these are all normal things: mutation, migration, and recombination, and all the things. These are very normal things. So, but here there are a lot of interaction. There are a lot of interaction. Environment is also playing a vital role in developing or conserving the biological diversity, and the interaction that is there between the biological resources, the environment, and even the farmers. The farmers also play a vital role in developing the biological diversity. And I don't know how, again, I'm asking a simple question, that the kind of the diversity that is there in the croplands, huh? It's not that the wild what is it called, wild croplands, that's a variety, and advanced breeding lines are there. There are many things are there. One important thing I wanted to mention here is that the role of farmers is also very important, because the farmers, they are the first what you call they develop a lot of land races, because they are unintentionally also, they breed the crops unintentionally. When I say, and the women is the first breeder, in fact, but since 10,000 years, the farmers, they'll be trying to go for selection, and in the process what happened, they'll developing certain land races, and whatever the characteristics suitable for the farmers, they'll try to uh, what you call select those kind of crops with benefits for them, and those plants are called as land races. So the diversity, for example, in crops, we'll be talking about the wild crops. We'll talk about the what is it called, the land races, the primitive varieties, even obsolete varieties, and advanced breeding lines are there, and improved crop varieties. These all will constitute the source, the biological source, but for improvement of the crops. Understood? In fact, the biological diversity is the basic for plant breeding. That's what Vavilov said. It's a Russian scientist. He was talking about the concept called how biological diversity is important for scientific plant breeding. Scientific plant breeding, and sir was talking about the productivity enhancement. The major component, the whatever the productivity enhancement is because of the biological diversity. Whether it is a digiogen, I'm talking about the gene, digiogen, or whatever the crop variety, whatever the varieties you're talking about in rice and wheat crop, most of the things we have got it from this biological diversity only. So this is about the interaction that is there with the biological diversity, environment, and the stakeholders. Farmers are very, and again I wanted to say is that the role of farmers, I think Dr. Kuman will be agreeing with me. The knowledge that is there with the farmers. I mean, MS Ramanan sir also will be talking about the indigenous knowledge, the traditional knowledge, because their role, and it's a very, very important thing to conserve the biological diversity. It's very important role. And this again, now when you redefine it, the terminologies, you can try to use these kind of things. We've understood. So we need to focus on these kind of parameters. One parameter I said very nicely, sir was talking about intensification. Yes, intensification along with the resource use efficiency is very important thing. The second important thing is the knowledge component, how best we can use the knowledge environment, because when you talk about knowledge, again there is an interaction between the knowledge, that means the science and the policy aspect, because understood, the science policy interaction is very important thing in agriculture biodiversity also. Okay. And when you talk about the importance, say I've spoken so much on this thing, and we can understand that how important it is. But nevertheless, if you look at it, is that the present pandemic. One important thing. I'm just speaking with you. The compulsion. When I started the session, I was. Uh, what I stated is that the uncertainties that is happening, because we can understand that I'm taking online classes now, and we are it's the condition, the prevailing condition, the COVID and the pandemic. I was just thinking about how this kind of uncertainties is affecting agriculture system. It's a very, very pertinent issue. It's very important thing, because how to manage it, because nothing can wait. Agriculture cannot wait. The seasons, the planting, the sowing, everything, all operations are time bound in nature, and we cannot. But nevertheless, a lot of issues are there in front of us. Under these circumstances, what kind of pressure can have it? What you think? What kind of changes you can bring? Again, I'm not talking about practices. Excuse me, please. No practices, no technology. You have in front of you. This is a problem in front of it. Can your system, agriculture system, agriculture production system, can it cope up? Can it resist? Can it transform? If you have an answer, fine. Whether it is anyone, do you have an answer? Now, in 2020, the thought process has changed. Not before that. Before that, we were planned. Everything was planned. The certainties, uncertainty, everything was there. Climate is changing. The global environment, that is also changing. We have a pollution problem, nitrogen pollution. Everything was known. But now, certain kind of uncertainty is there. We don't know what is going to happen. Understood? Under that circumstances, do your system is having the capability. Understood? So we missed that bus. When I say when we missed the bus, I still remember the UG99. UG99 is called, UG means Uganda, 99 is the year, 1999. UG99, it's a rust disease. It has come from the Middle East, and it was about to attack via the neighboring country, that's what is called Pakistan. It is going to attack the wheat population completely. UG99, because it's rust disease. A very interesting point is that the similar fashion, this kind of pandemics anytime can occur, because there doesn't have any borders. The disease causing organism doesn't have any borders. Do we have a system? When I say system, I'm not talking about the what is it called, the pesticides. I'm not talking about the scientist. I'm talking about the inherent capacity of the agriculture system. Inner by itself, agriculture system itself, do that system, it is having a power. Understood? This, you are trying to understand that particular point. I'm stressing more and more that particular thing. So we have to focus on those aspects. It's not that you, me, the scientist, the technology, the practice. No. I'm talking about how to improve the how to build the capacity of the system, agriculture system. By itself, it can transform. By itself, it can adapt. Do you have that thing? Unless we have that thing, no point of discussing. We are trying to have a technology and we are giving a solution. That's all. I'm trying to bring a important point is that try to build up the system capacity. Make yourself, for example, in our case, make yourself immune. We are trying to increase the immunity, isn't it? The same way I'm trying to bring a metaphor kind of thing wherein I'm trying to say that the agricultural system also has to adapt itself. When I say adapt itself, what kind of adaptation? When I'm talking about adaptation, it should be a transformational one, just to transform itself. Understood? It's not simply a kind of a piecemeal approach. Just to adapt itself, then only it can resist, it can cope up with the stresses, uncertainties, and only then. And you have to, whenever whatever we are discussing, Dr. Kuman also, whatever we are discussing, all the participants also, we think about those aspects, not simply talking about the simple these kind of no, I'm talking about that. Do you have any solution? When we talk about a science, when you talk about a science, what we are crossing up, what just for what point I'm saying is that we have to build those aspects, the scientific aspects, try to build in the capacity of the system. Understood? Not simply just what you call by bringing this changing for example, adaptation. I'll just give an example. You wanted to what you call avoid, you can wanted to avoid a particular pest, you wanted to avoid a particular disease. What you will do? Adaptation means what? You'll try to change the date of sowing. In a way, when you change the date of sowing, you're making the plant, the particular plant is plant is not facing the stress from the pest. Simple adaptation. We call that, this is a man-made thing. Man-made thing. What I am bringing a point is that why not you bring a resistance in the particular plant itself? Getting my point? And for that thing, agriculture biodiversity is important. I hope you understand, every one of you. I hope you understand. This was the first, I mean, when Dr. Kuman and I was discussing this a few days back, he said, sir, something has to be different should be there. I said, what should be different? He said, "Matlab, it should be different." When I say, then I was thinking about it, when I was just going through that thing, this was the first important thing. When you talk about this particular pandemic, I said that this pandemic, this particular, agriculture system also should have a rethought. Yesterday I was just going through the paper. I was so impressed. So that made me to say this particular point, that the thinking process has to be there. Again, when I say rethinking about the research aspect, the scientific research aspect, it's not only looking at those kind of problems. Understood? For example, a very interesting point is that as far as when you talk about the agriculture thing, everything is interesting. Everything is interesting because everything is factual. Uh, agriculture practices that the particular paddy crop is a very important crop in transgangetic plain, and because of that lowland, basically it requires more than 2,500 of water per hectare. This kind of water requirement is more for the paddy crop, and in order to meet the water demand of a paddy crop, the farmers from the Punjab and Haryana they've done is that they've started extracting the groundwater, and that has resulted in the depletion of groundwater. It's very simple. Transgangetic plain, water depletion is the rate is very, very high. And what was the solution? The solution was that the government of Punjab and Haryana thought that okay, fine, this is this particular agriculture practice, that is not practice, crop, the paddy crop is depleting the groundwater. So why not shift the date of sowing? Shift the date of sowing. 20th June, fine. 20th June, we'll do that, because when they shift the date of sowing, so the monsoon will come in that particular period, vegetative growth of the particular period. So the farmers will not be using the groundwater. Because they'll be getting the monsoon rain. So in that way, what happened? The groundwater level will not be depleting. That was the idea. It's a law. Government of both Punjab and Haryana promulgated a law in 2009, way back. Fine, wonderful. But this has created another problem. So they have postponed the date of sowing, and that has led to what? Crop residue burning. Human made. We speak about science, and Dr. Kuman, you are here, I hope. We speak only. And now I'm just in front of you, I'm just giving an example. They've changed the date of sowing by law. Agriculture is a state subject. Yes, government of Punjab and Haryana, they postponed the sowing, and they'll be harvesting in the month of November, October. Fine. They wanted to go for the first December. They have to go for what do you call wheat. First fortnight of December, they'll go for wheat crop. They don't have time, so what they've done, they burnt the crop residues, and that has resulted in some other problem, crop residue burning. Do you call this as a kind of an adaptation? Do you call this as a kind of what kind of things you will be, what kind of terminology? I'm ignorant about the vocabulary at this point of time. No, what do you call this as? Do you have any solution? So it's not been there because you have one problem and you wanted to try it out. Now, what I'm saying is that why not build a component in the agriculture system itself? I'm not going to give any answer for this thing because it's a $1 billion question. I don't want to give any answer to this thing. Simple, as simple as that. When I say $1 billion question, because we need to understand those things. A very interesting point. I was just going through those particular thing. What is it called? What do you call the crop on fire? That was the title, Crop on Fire. I mean, it's a science paper. It's published in Science. It's a wonderful paper. I don't know. I maybe Crop on Fire, something on fire. I was tempted to look at those aspects, and I was thinking, okay, fine. So what they are trying to say is that so everything is moving in one direction. The problems are increasing. Problems are increasing. Our solution, we have a narrow thought. We are just moving to a piecemeal kind of solution. Understood. So I'm just coming back to this particular thing again by going for, because I don't know, Sir Sudhakar sir, I think in front of me, he used a word diversification. Very interesting point. That word diversification is so nice. Here, for the solution with particular Punjab and Haryana, that government should have thought about diversification. If they would have thought about diversification as a policy measure, understood, how wonderful it would have been. How wonderful would that have been? Because when I say wonderful thing, because the government support subsidy system is there, everything is provided by the government, and that would have made the farmers, the perception, would have been changed, and that can be called as sustainability. Getting my point? Here, I am relating the science component with the policy component. Dr. Kuman, you here, I think, the science component and the policy component. Yeah. It's Dr. Kumar, it is 6:10. I'm in second slide only. Dr. Kumar, it is 6:10. I'm in second slide. Fine now. I think Dr. Kumar is not here. Okay, fine. What I'll do, I'll quickly go through it. There's as far as the status of agriculture biodiversity is concerned, the crop plant, I mean, whether it's a plant and animal species, there are quite a number of things are there, and it's a numerous thing which we don't know even the what you call the kind of benefits or kind of services it's going to render. It's very important thing, because one simple example I wanted to stress is that the pollinators. Understood. The role they play with the pollinators, it's immense, because if you see any horticulture crops, more than 45% of horticulture crops are cross-pollinated, and for cross-pollinated to be successful, and definitely the pollinators role, ecosystem services, is to be very, very important thing. Okay. Dr. Kuman? 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 अरे कहाँ पर है? अरे यार मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ, 2-3 स्लाइड हुआ था, 16 हो गया, क्या करेंगे? अच्छा अच्छा ठीक है। Yeah, in fact, so no issue. What we have discussed is that I've just given what is the take-home message from whatever discussed I got. I mean, I've given now is that agriculture biodiversity is extremely important for the growth and development of agriculture. In order to increase agriculture production, we require. The second important point is that the kind of eventualities, the kind of the uncertainties, the kind of developments that is there in the what you call in the agriculture sector as well as the environment, we need to look for certain what you call capacity building exercises, and then talk about you have to build the system, the what you call the agriculture system to be more productive. So there are straight away when you look at the biological diversity, there are a lot of problems are there when you lose the biodiversity, because definitely there are a lot of drivers are there in agriculture biodiversity. The main focus has been mostly on the changes that is taking place in the land use, and the use of chemicals, pesticides. These kind of things also can drive the the what do you call loss of biodiversity. It can lead to a loss of biodiversity. So the and indirect pressures are there. When you talk about indirect pressures, is population and our lifestyle and everything is also can have a drastic impact on the biodiversity. Okay, so definitely the cause of concern is that, as I mentioned, about the increasing population, the diet shift, and a lot of demand from for agricultural resources, particularly because even if it is a marginal land or a degraded land, that kind of the things, we need to look for certain other energy plantations, certain because a new development is the biofuel, because we need to switch over from the fossil fuels to the renewable energy sources. And from that perspective, when you talk about renewable energy, the biofuels are more significant thing. And the western country, the focus is more on biofuels, because they wanted to have a kind of the focus is more on the renewable energy source in our country also. But at the same time, it's very difficult, because we cannot give the 141 billion hectares. It's very the meager land is available for agriculture. We cannot share the land for biofuel consumption, biofuel production. Okay, as far as biofuel is concerned, I'm talking about the 1G. 1 means first generation one. But second generation is, yes, it's important. Second generation, third generation is very, very important. There are a lot of things can happen, okay, with that thing also. So fine, I think I'll take up the questions. More than that, I'll be taking up the questions. If you have any queries, I'll be happy to answer those kind of questions, please. There's a lot to discuss on agriculture biodiversity. I'll be happy to take up the questions, so that in that way I can explain also.
Shall we open for discussion, or just it's better to quick look into whatever you propose? I mean, you have prepared PPT. I'm sure you have some more which needs to be focused.
Yeah, but I'll be happy to take up the questions, Kuman, because
Okay.
that way I can be. I mean, it's interesting also, no? Because what exactly they wanted, I'll be happy in that.
Okay.
Okay. In fact, interesting group was there. Sir is there. He just made me to think on two important aspects. He said productivity enhancement, and the other one is diversification and intensification, which is interesting aspect. But from that particular point, I started to discuss more and more on that thing. Doctor.
Or you want to continue the after that? You want to continue the the PPT or not?
No, I'll be happy to take up the questions. So in that way, what
Okay.
it will be easier.
Okay, then you please.